Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is a Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 7-inch tablet. It's an Android tablet that sells for about $249, which puts it in the same sort of price range as other tablets, such as the Amazon Kindle Fire, which sells for $200, and the Barnes & Noble Nook tablet, which sells for up to $249. The difference is that these are tablets that are sold by sort of ebook companies or retail companies, and they run highly customized versions of Google Android 2.3 meant to access the Amazon App Store and Amazon Kindle Store, Barnes & Noble Nook Store, and so forth. Whereas this guy is running a more or less standard version of Google Android 4.0, which is designed to run on tablets, not just smartphones, and has full access to the Android Market or the Google Play Store or whatever you want to call it these days, and you can access all the Google services on it. Also has front and rear cameras, features that are missing from the other two tablets that we looked at, and unlike the Kindle Fire, it has a micro SD card slot. It's a little bit smaller also than the Nook tablet. Definitely you can see that the Nook is a lot wider there and a little bit thinner than the Kindle Fire. Weighs a little bit less too, at a little over 12 ounces compared with around 14 ounces. Not a huge difference. They're all reasonably decent tablets to hold in your hand while surfing the web, watching videos, doing related activities. Of the three, I tend to find the Nook tablet is the most comfortable to hold because while this bezel might not be the most attractive feature, and it does make it a little bit larger, it's got a nice soft touch and makes it easy for long sessions of reading, and it really is sort of a tablet aimed at reading. The Samsung Galaxy Tab 2, on the other hand, has sort of a glass front and a plastic back with a metallic look to it. It's reasonably comfortable to hold for a long period of time, but it's not quite as comfortable as the Nook. I did read a 600-page book while testing this tablet for the purposes of this review, and didn't really have any major problems with it. And actually probably find it a little bit more comfortable to hold than the Kindle Fire, because the Kindle Fire has less rounded edges, which means that if you sort of hold it the way that I like to, with it resting against your palm there, it's going to dig into your palm a little bit more if you're using the Kindle than the Samsung. But anyway, so as I mentioned, though, it comes with Android 4.0. So let's take a look at the operating system. It's customized with Samsung's TouchWiz software, which means that it doesn't look quite like Android 4.0 and some other tablets. For instance, the quick panel setting here has sort of larger fonts, green and blue toggles and so forth here. For the most part, these toggles are pretty useful, so I'm not really going to complain about that part of TouchWiz. You can see the settings have also sort of been colorized here, instead of the blue and black that you get with most Android 4.0 tablets. Some of the stranger things that Samsung has done include adding these mini apps that pop up on top of other applications and will stay there no matter what you're doing until you hit the X to make them go away. It's kind of a neat feature, but for the most part these apps just aren't that useful or things that I want to use very often. We've got alarms, calculator, email, not the Gmail application, which I use all the time, but the Samsung email app. We've also got S Planner, which is Samsung's version of a calendar application. Task Manager, which is kind of nice to have, but not really that necessary for the most part. World Clock and Music Player. Now this is the Samsung Music Player, not the Google Music Player, but you can control media playback quickly just by bringing up that mini app instead of switching applications. Another thing that Samsung has done, which I find a little bit strange here, is they've included a screenshot button right here in the toolbar. And as soon as you take a screenshot using that, you can then go in and crop an image or draw or write on the image. And then save or send it to, or even send it to a printer. It's kind of a nice feature to have, but it's a little bit odd because really you can also hit a combination of the power button and the volume down button most Android 4.0 devices to take a screenshot. So the fact that you can edit the screenshots, I guess, is nice. The fact that it's a button that's taken up here on the toolbar is a little bit weird, though, because it's right next to the Recent Apps menu, which means that something that you're probably not going to do very often, which is take a screenshot and then draw on it, is a button that you might accidentally hit when what you really want to do is just go back to a previous application, which is something that you're probably going to do much more frequently. That said, you know, for the most part, TouchWiz isn't that obtrusive, and if you really don't like, say, the custom home screen application that Samsung has, and the app menu, which lets you scroll from left to right instead of up and down, you can use a different home screen application if you really want to. So, for instance, I have installed ADW Launcher here, and we can just use a different home screen. Now, it's not going to get rid of the other items that you have here on the bottom, such as that quick settings or the screenshot application, but it will change the look and feel of the app drawer and the home screen. So, you know, there are those options. And if you really, really want to change things, you can root this tablet and install custom ROMs such as CyanogenMod. That's something that you have to do when you're using something like the Kindle Fire if you want to be able to access the hundreds of thousands of apps in the Google Play Store. But it's something that is kind of unnecessary here, unless you really want to do it. And so it's nice to have the option, but it's nice not to need the option. Something else that actually happened here when we pulled up the Play Store is you'll notice that there's the keyboard. This is a custom keyboard that Samsung includes. It's kind of nice that you have the dedicated row of number keys here, and tab and caps lock and some other buttons that you don't normally get. But on a 7-inch tablet, it's kind of cramped, and I find that it's a little bit harder to type on than the standard Android keyboard, which I'll show you here on the Nook tablet, which is, you can see, a little bit wider and I think a little bit easier for thumb typing, if you ask me. This is a Nook tablet that's been rooted and is running CyanogenMod, so you can see this is a much more standard Android experience. So again, if we look at the quick panels, you can see the differences there, or if we go into the settings menu, you can see some pretty dramatic differences there. I think it's, for the most part, just going to be a matter of taste, which one you prefer. I personally prefer CyanogenMod, I think, and sort of the stock Android 4.0 experience, but it might just be because I'm more familiar with it. For the most part, there's really nothing wrong with TouchWiz other than maybe putting that screenshot application right there and these mini apps, which I just don't think are very useful. But you don't never really need to use them if you don't want to. Samsung also includes some additional software. This particular device comes with Dropbox preloaded, and you get 50 gigabytes of online cloud storage, so you can upload files from your computer or access them on your tablet, or vice versa. There's the Peel Smart Remote application, and what this does is it actually works with the infrared port so that you can use the tablet as a remote control for your TV or other home media center devices. That's something you don't see on a lot of tablets right now, and definitely something that helps set this guy apart. In terms of the overall hardware, again, we've got the infrared port, power, volume buttons, headphone jack, SD card slot hidden behind a little plastic door there. And on the bottom, we've got a proprietary port here, which you can use to connect a USB cable for charging or for connecting to a computer, and stereo speakers. The speakers, when the volume is sort of below 50%, sound pretty good. They can get really loud, but also really muffled if you go much beyond that. So the speaker is not the best I've ever used, but reasonably decent. Another thing that's sort of interesting here is I've noticed that the automatic screen rotation is pretty quick, which is nice, but it's also a little bit over-aggressive at times, so that when I tilt the device sort of at this angle, you can't really see what just happened there, but fairly quickly it'll make the screen flip. And because it's kind of aggressive, it means that sometimes if you're reading a book and you just sort of tilt your hand by accident, the screen might rotate and then you have to rotate it back. Not the end of the world, but it's something that does take a little bit of getting used to. So overall, though, in terms of performance, I'm pretty happy with this tablet. In terms of viewing angles, it's almost as good, I would say, as the Amazon Kindle and the Nook tablet. In terms of price, it's really pretty hard to beat. Without rooting it, without installing custom ROMs, you get access to pretty much everything Android 4.0 has to offer for about $249. It is possible to get the other guys a little bit cheaper, but if you don't want to have to root your tablet to use the Google Play Store, it's hard to beat the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 7-inch tablet.